All right. We will call to order the agenda meeting of the Biwabik City Council. Shannon, can I have a roll call, please? Here. Okay, we will start with the administrators, staff, and consultant updates. We'll go right to item A, Mr. Bergstrom. You want to head up to the, just hit that rectangular button right there. There you go.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Here today to talk to you about the building condition assessment that was prepared a few months ago for you. So today I thought we'd just walk through at a high level the assessment for the three buildings. I'm not going to try and read the report to you and go through all the details, but talk about some of the things we saw and then some of the recommendations we're making. Certainly open it up and answer any of your questions, your comments after that. Try to take some next steps or see where you'd like to go with it from there. I'll start out with maybe just a high-level overview of what the project entailed and what we did as part of this assessment. So conditions assessment, the first step is to review existing drawings, looked at the available information you had, reports, drawings, things like that. Then our team went out to review the sites, each building. So we included an architectural, mechanical, electrical engineer at each of the site visits. We did not send a structural engineer out there. We did have a few things that the structural engineers looked at, some pictures and things like that, but we didn't see any necessarily significant structural issues that needed warranted having a structural engineer visit the site. The review was, I want to call it a little bit of a higher level review. We didn't necessarily, take finishes down. We didn't take ceilings down. We didn't pull carpet up, things like that to look at the existing conditions. We didn't open up walls for any demolition. So it was really limited to the visual things that we could see in the building. So the assessment also was not comprehensive to the sense that we didn't try to identify every doorknob that didn't work or every light bulb that was burnt out. We're looking at big system items: roofing, exterior cladding, interior finishes, mechanical, electrical systems. So the bigger ticket items, not necessarily down to the outlets and the doorknobs. But hopefully that makes sense. Kind of gives you a little bit of a picture of what we were looking for and where we were going. We did this with the intent of trying to identify current deficiencies, things that from a maintenance standpoint maybe have needed some attention, or that we thought needed some attention to preserve the life of the building, to expand and extend the life of the building, prevent degradation or further deterioration of facilities. I will say overall the facilities were in good condition. We didn't find anything that was a significant item to the point where we thought this is a dangerous situation or necessarily need immediate attention. That was a positive note. From that, maybe any questions at this point with that kind of overview before I jump into the building?
I think that's good, and I think a big part of the ask of you coming out here was to kind of rank things in an order of priority. That's kind of as we get into, as you kind of get into more of the individual buildings. So, okay.
We can definitely touch on that topic as we get to the end here. Maybe I'll give a high-level overview of the different recommendations we had for each of the buildings, starting with City Hall. We'll flip to page 12 in the report, which is an overview of our recommendations. You'll see there some exterior improvements that we recommended: replacement of asphalt shingle roofing, entry stair railing at the main front entry, some repair work down there. Exterior masonry repair, which was a fairly minor, small item at the loading dock area on the back of the building. Then replacing the exterior windows was a larger ticket item. Interior upgrades were replacing general interior finishes, carpet paint, ceilings throughout. Just as a general rule, we generally say those things should be upgraded periodically. Not one of those things that's critical to the overall lifespan of the building, but just to keep the building fresh. Plumbing, the only real plumbing thing was replacing a gas or water heater. Some HVAC items were replacing boiler components, or the boiler and the components, and then temperature controls throughout the building. Occupancy sensors on the lighting system was one of those items that's more of an energy saving type of item. And then security upgrades, one of the things we were asked to look at is what could we do from a security standpoint to these buildings. So the things that we had identified: adding some door access control systems, card readers to some of the doors to provide more control access for staff. Adding security camera systems throughout the building, retrofitting the lobby with some ballistic paneling, if that's a concern. Upgrading the council desk, adding some ballistic protection for the council. And then adding staff tables to the secure staff tables to the council chamber. So where you have additional people sitting around the table, including those in more of a secure type of resistant type of desk. Any questions with those recommendations? If I can roll through all three buildings and we can come back, that's an easier way to do it. All right, so the second building we look at was the pavilion. The pavilion was built in 1999 based on our research. Generally speaking, in good condition. I'll jump to page 20 of our report, has the recommendations. What's in the recommendations here are all relatively minor. Asphalt shingle roofing replacement was also recommended here. Refinishing of some wood trim, some of the paint has started to peel. Repairing a door threshold, a pretty minor item, but there's a little bit of trip hazard that could be happening there. Adding a handicap parking stall, and then adding some additional insulation for the roof to increase energy performance of the building. HVAC performance or recommendations, improving or replacing large gas-fired air handling unit was probably the biggest ticket item there. Replacement of the gas furnaces and condensing units, and then temperature controls, again, good energy savings endeavor. Occupancy sensors on the lighting system, and then again for security, adding security cameras and door access controls. The final building that we'll take a look at was the Public Works. Public Works building was constructed in 1991 based on the research and drawings we had. I will flip again to the recommendations on page 26, 27. A few more here, given the use of the building. A replacement of the overhead garage doors. Replacement of the exterior walk doors. We're starting to show some deterioration. Exterior windows, pipe bollards of the concrete apron out in front. If you look at some of the photos, you'll see they've been damaged. It looks like there's been some heaping of concrete there. Handicap parking stalls, and then again, additional attic insulation as an energy savings measure. Interior improvements, the restroom and finishes to the restroom currently is not an accessible restroom, doesn't meet ADA standards by current standards. So a renovation of that would be recommended. And then replacement of interior finishes. If you look at the photos or if you've been in the building, some of the finishes are fairly aged and could use some updating. HVAC recommendations, gas-fired furnace, welding exhaust system. Now some of these, and then the last one there was the CO2. If you look to the next page, NO2 detector system. Some of those are considered more life safety items. If you have welding or some diesel or gas engines running inside the garage and they don't have proper exhaust, there's a little bit more of a health concern there that we would recommend those items be improved. Trench drain systems, and then gas water heater, a water heater, or the boiling items, or the plumbing items, lighting upgrades, exit signs, occupancy sensors. The exit signs, we would recommend that, again, more of a life safety item that we generally look at to make sure that they're up to code and up to par. And then again, we have some security things for this building, security access and camera system. I can pause there. Any questions, or if you want me to go into any more detail on any of the items that we have recommended at this point?
So is there anything, from like a overall priority standpoint, like you should really take care of the pavilion roof? That's a lot more high up on the list than say anything like the council chamber.
So we did not, in the report, we did not prioritize them, which I'm sure you've noticed. If we were to prioritize them, which is a little bit of a difficult thing for us to do, because we want to also understand and incorporate your priorities as the city. But generally speaking, if you were to come to me and say, how should we prioritize these, I would always start with life safety items first. So that's going to be anything with the gas systems, anything to do with exiting, anything to do with the exhaust, public works garage, signs, those types of items. Those are the most important and most critical from a life safety standpoint. When people working in these buildings, Biwabik is in some of them. We want to make sure they're safe on there. From there, I think the second recommendation I would have is to look at, and this is where things start to become a little bit. We want to balance what we see from professional design side with what your goals are. We would start to recommend anything that would conserve would increase the lifespan of the building. So that would be roofing, windows, things, trim that's maybe faulty, masonry work that was noted on the city hall. Things that would allow water infiltration, moisture infiltration, things that if they were left to continue to deteriorate would start to cause potential problems with the building and could decrease increase the lifespan of the building or create larger structural issues down the road. So that would generally be our second item to recommend to consider. And then third on that list would probably be the security and the energy improvement items. There again, I want to caution that depends on kind of where council and city staff feel security items fall in. They may be the most prevalent to you. You may have had some issues. They may be very, very top of mind and high priority to you, in which case I would suggest we want to talk about stuff. But generally speaking, it's safety, then ensuring the envelope of the building is secure and that you have a good weather tight facility so that you don't exacerbate any of the problems that are currently out there. Then follow it up with the security and energy efficiency. Microphone.
I don't know if the council should have a meeting and we should discuss what we want prioritized. I mean, to me, like my personal opinion is to increase the lifespan of buildings. That would be my priority, but I don't know how the rest of the councils feel about that.
I guess if I may, we can certainly go back and prioritize this for you, but for us to do it, I guess there's a little bit of concern that we do it in a vacuum, not understanding what your priorities are. So there can be some discussion about that. I would be happy to come back with what we see as the priority, but again, I don't want to jump ahead and give you a priority list that doesn't match what your vision is. Any other questions?
Well, I guess I would say, I mean, even if you make a priority list for us, at least then we review it and then kind of make our opinion off of that also. At least then we would have an idea of what you think we should be doing, then we can budget or figure out where we should be putting money.
Absolutely. I think another thing to consider is, you could take this building by building, you could take this by type of upgrade, you could do all the roofs, you could say we're going to do one building for the next 3 years. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at that and break that down as well. So I think those are some of the other considerations to take into thought here as you move forward. But we certainly could prioritize and help you do that. That would be beneficial.
And I think one of the things that we were looking for was, the pavilion roof is failing. That should be definitely taken care of, before we worry about the, bollards outside of Public Works garage.
I would agree.
Kind of an overall, like, you should do this because if you don't, this is going to fail. If there was anything that was on that, that I would agree with.
Mayor and Council, another aspect to this project, which is not in this proposal, but it's part of our overall arrangement and agreement and relationship with SEH, is the funding side. On that side, we've had Mike Larson from SEH has worked with us on grant applications, grant seeking, legislative type stuff. Now there's another staffer from SEH who's been working with us on a lot of stuff. Ellie Bohaber, who actually, she was the one who did our latest LCCMR application start to finish. Did some lengthy grant applications on the PUC side start to finish. So that would be the other part that goes along with this, just part of that overall umbrella with SEH. Just kind of the nature of how this goes. If there's a lot of roof grants out there, I think roofs probably climb up on the priority list, and if there's a lot of HVAC grants out there, I think maybe HVAC pops up. So they'll have to be involved as well.
Anything else, people? Can I leave you on the spot for one because you're on the agenda as well?
Sure.
If anybody has any questions regarding new business number 10D, the approval of professional services at SEH for engineering of the public safety bill. If there's any questions, Mr. Bergstrom is your guy. Just wanted to grab you for that before you sit down. So, or leave you.
I will be here.
Here. I guess one of the questions I had was, okay, so right now we have the $1 million, correct? We have the $1 million grant.
Yes.
Okay. So we don't actually have the money to build this facility
Yet.
or the funding. Do you think we will be able to get the funding? Because I'm wondering if we, I mean, because this contract says that you will either for the whole phase. I mean, what if we don't get the funding? We have plans. I guess that's where I'm at.
Well, we need the plans to get the funding. We've just kind of jumping ahead through my stuff, but we did secure another $1 million from the minerals bill in the session. So there's now $2 million. So that money is growing, but we have to start on it now. That's the money was appropriated for this. So if we were to just not use it, that would probably not go very well with the IRRR.
I guess my question was, do we do phases or do we do the whole thing? Do we need to do the whole thing or can we do like phase one? No, phase one is like it's described in here, phase one. Pay them for that. Or, I mean, I really didn't know.
Yeah, this would be considered phase one.
Okay. And then I was wondering if you would help us secure funding, because that's not, I didn't see that in the contract anywhere that SEH would help us secure.
And that again is part of that overall relationship with SEH. We've got access and the services of Mike Larson, and now Allie has been doing a lot of those. In addition to the lobbying services that they have people down at the Capitol that are doing lobbying, which has kind of led to the funding we have so far. And that's something that's just always come with having SCH as our state and city engineer.
I guess my last question, and I don't know if this is for you or, it only describes it as a fire station here, but it'll be fire and ambulance, right? It'll be more of a public
Safety.
Oh,
There'll be police paid there too.
okay, all right, because yeah, it only says fire station, so I wasn't sure about that. Those were my questions.
Are there any other questions at all? All right. You're off the hook.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. With that, seeing we're down to 13 minutes, we'll go through any council questions that you may have on the agenda. I would also encourage the council that if you have any consent agenda item questions, that you ask those here versus the lengthy process of pulling, approving, and refiling. We'll start with Councilor Berg if you have any. Councilor Lehman? Councilor Neem? Councilor Waller?
Okay, for the gambling permit, it's for Virginia Elks up at Neighbors. Was there no local nonprofits that wanted to have that? Full pads up there?
There was one, and they're no longer. So.
Okay, because I thought that we had, given a permit to somebody.
We did.
And then I'm just wondering, will they invest in our community because they're from Virginia Elks? Do you have any idea?
So we do get a 10% gambling tax, which is what funds the Civic Association through our ordinance. But the thing about any charity is that you have to ask for the funds. They don't just give it back. But I think we have Virginia Elks at Vi's Pizza, I believe. No? Oh, it's a Climb. Climb's at Vi's. Is Elks at, or is Climb at both now? So is the Elks down at the bottom? I'm on a fixed income. I can't play both of them.
You don't know where your money is.
Yeah, maybe I still play a little bit of both ends. So yeah.
So that's something that we would, or Baca or somebody would have to pursue if we wanted to try to get
Correct.
more money. Okay. And then I was wondering, when our firefighters respond to, like, now they were working on the wildfires, so who pays them? Does the city pay them, or does it come out of, like, for service fund.
Oh, are you out of power? We just checked it. It was only down 1 bar. Still 3 to go.
So, yeah, so the pay structure for the firefighters is paid through the city of Biwabik. The city of Biwabik has a cooperator agreement with the Minnesota DNR, and so they pay for an hourly rate for our equipment. There's a defined rate in the contract. So they pay for the equipment use, and then we pay the staff of the city. And then we invoice after the fire's done or after the assignment's done. So we invoice the DNR. That's kind of how the process works.
I was just curious about that. Thank you, Dan. And my last one is Public Works. On their report, I'm a little bit confused. There's closed and there's finished. And I'm not really sure what the difference is. And some hours still are not listed on the closed or finished.
Jeff, did you want to handle it or do you want me to grab it?
I can cover it. So, Mayor and Council, on the hour thing, just a matter of continuing to work with the guys to make sure they fill those out. And we now have 3 categories in there. There's requested, open, 4 categories: requested, open, closed, and finished. Finished means that something like a tree fell over and it got removed and it's finished. It's done. Closed would be something like mowing a certain area that needs to be done over and over again. So rather than starting a one over, you'd open and close that job, and then it'll tally the hours for that job as a whole. So you don't wind up with just 300 work orders. We're able to open and close those recurring ones.
And then to add to that, something like, say, the mowing at the cemetery is tracked under the cemetery work order. And at the end of the season, we'll be able to know how many man hours and what the costs were to maintain the cemetery, or you can break it down to ball fields or as areas of town. So we just kind of revamped that at our staff last month. So I think we're definitely made some really good progress on this.
Last thing is we're looking at a weekly cleaning schedule with a company. What does that include? What would the weekly cleaning schedule include? Would it be all 3 floors of City Hall?
Yes.
Like cleaning the bathroom, vacuuming, scrubbing?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Nope. We'll double your rent, and then you'll get cleaning service. Okay, and everything I have is on the agenda. So, Jeff, if you wanted to, did you have anything to add here?
Mayor and Council, I'll cover what's not on the agenda. There are a few nuisance claims that are pending and open. They are probably the largest ones we have. So they're gonna take a little more time to clear those up with the nuisance complaints that we have. Giving them a 5 or 6 day notice to clear that up before we come in and do a couple $1,000 worth of cleanup really wasn't work. So those are in process. There is, I missed something on the age friendly communities action items. There will be people from age friendly communities here to present. We've got their presentation materials in front of you, and then still working on something for the maintenance and ongoing landscape for the Main Street project. We're getting towards the end of the Hoffman and McNamara is the subcontractor who's doing it now. So we've got a little bit of time left on that. I've been talking with them, and one of the citizens has also been talking with them about what goes into that maintenance. So those will be on future agendas. And I can run through real quick here. of the new business items. Authorizing a lease purchase agreement. That is the financing on the truck the fire truck that was approved at a previous meeting. So just a lot of bank paperwork to fill out there. The accepting the donation. That is a donation from First Bank of Gilbert to be used kind of toward housing, and there is not a lot of real clear parameters on that. One of the things that happened in the last legislative session is because there was so much on it, they kind of pushed out a lot of money for these programs without a whole lot of details around them, which is overall that's very good. The money's out there, the money's available, but it's not really clearly earmarked or bullet pointed. But it will give us a decent amount of money to start as. Unfortunately, as grateful as we are for the donation, unfortunately, in these days, $30,000 in that venue is a smaller amount of money, but very much appreciated. The resolution calling a public hearing on the question of establishing an EDA. The council had at a workshop previously expressed the desire to form an EDA to give us some more options on attracting development. I think I've said this, people have heard me say this several times. The public hearing, the reason that there are things legally required for a public hearing is because people are kind of surprised. The council doesn't have to let people talk at council meetings legally. Some city councils, some cities don't have a comment period where they take that. So there's certain things where the state says, no, you have to allow public comment on this. So it seems a little bit extra formal. That's why. Just so that they know that people do have the ability to weigh in on that. The professional service agreement with SEH, Brian talked a little bit about that. We kind of covered that. 10E, acceptance of resignation of the city administrator. I'm not known as an emotional guy, touchy-feely guy, but it might kind of go that way. It has been an excellent 18 years here. I feel very fortunate for the time that I've had. It's been great working with everyone. Acceptance of resignation from fire captain position, approval of leave of absence request. Austin Berg has put in the appropriate request for that. Approval of proposal for City Hall cleaning services. Touched on that a little bit. That came out of an initial kind of acknowledgement or offer from BACA, the beating that the building takes for some of the events. They looked at trying to fix some of that up and try to do some maintenance. So started out as just some floor work and some repair, and the regular routine cleaning services were so reasonable that we wanted to bring it to the council and continue with that to have those services done. Approval of purchase for a pickup for public works. This one has been tricky. We will need to buy a fully outfitted, new one-ton truck to use. But in the meantime, we have been lacking in proper, for the most part, transportation and for our summer crew. The used vehicle market is starting to open up a little bit, but things don't stick around for all that long. So looking for some authorization to be able to make those decisions. Approval of purchase on the power cut for new ambulance. That came up a little bit when we had ordered the new ambulance at a previous meeting, just to kind of complete the build on that. And then the approval of the new city logo design. That is, the mayor's been working with some folks on that to come up with some options there that wanted to bring to the council and get some input and approval.
Can you have that ready to put on the screen too? Because the packet that got emailed out, color schemes.
Okay. And I did do a little searching on what the process is for approving a city logo, and I found nothing. So let's see what the council wants to do on the approval of that logo.
Okay. Well, it is 17:59, and I will adjourn the agenda meeting. About a 30-second window here, folks. Shannon, can I have a roll call, please? Here. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move on to item 4, agenda approval, including any consent agenda items to be pulled. Please note that we will be adding item 7A, the age-friendly Minnesota presentation. It's been motioned and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, consent agenda. It's been motioned and supported to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, there is none. Item 7, presentations, age-friendly Minnesota. I could ask you to come to there's a little green or a little square button there, rectangle button.
Great. All right, does that work? Hello? I'm good. Gotcha. Okay, thanks. So I had a presentation that I sent. I don't know if we get that pulled up or not. Sorry to advance slide. Perfect. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for letting me come and talk to you guys tonight. Thanks to Patty for the invitation. My name is Georgia Lane. I work for the Arrowhead Area Agency on Aging. We are a division of ARDC, or the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission. So I've been working now for about 3 years with communities throughout our region on helping prepare for aging demographics. And I'm going to share some information with you guys tonight, and I'll definitely have time for questions, and I'll try to keep it quick. So next slide. All right, so just a quick question to start off with for you here in the room and folks who are watching. What does it take to age well in your community? We know that in our rural areas, it takes a lot, right? And it looks a lot different in rural areas than it does in metro. Next slide. We also know that aging is so cool that everyone is doing it. From the moment that we're born to the moment that we die, we are all getting older. And this is not always a bad thing. This can be a very good thing. Next slide. We have to think about aging as something that happens to somebody else, but it's actually for all of us. I pulled some data here from the Northland Connection. You can see here that in Biwabik, 1 in 3 people are over the age of 60 and 44% of people are over the age of 50. So you guys are about on par with the rest of rural spots in the state that we are aging faster than urban areas. Next slide. And we're going to continue to live longer, healthier lives. Back in 1860, actually, the average life expectancy was about 39.8 years old. And here you can see in 1960, average life expectancy was around 100, and that's going to continue to grow, right? So because of advances in public health things, we're going to live longer lives. Next slide. And some research here shows that half of today's 5-year-olds will live to be 100. So we have to think differently about aging. We have to think differently about the final 30 years that we get. And age-friendly community work is one tool that's helped us and helped communities think differently about how we prepare for aging demographics. Next slide. So we want to think about people 65 and older, 50 or older, however old you consider old. Everyone in our community is needed, right? We want to think about valued community members and not older adults as liabilities and the problems that are associated. If you think of the majority of people that you know who are over 65, maybe just look around the room. Think of your neighbors. Think of who you see in a grocery store. Right, we have an aging demographic, and we, especially in rural communities, want to keep everyone here, right? And so how do we think about the work ethic and the innovation that we're known for in Minnesota to be able to make great communities for us to live as we age? Next slide. So 93%, you can put through, there's a couple stats here, 93% of people 65 and older live independently in their own communities. Only about 4.5% live in assisted living and 2.5% live in long-term care. So that shows us that communities are the places for people to age. We want to age in our communities. We don't want to move to the cities. We don't want to have to move to Duluth or to bigger metro areas. We want our communities to be a place where we can